The tide comes in, pulls some sand back into the ocean. The land is lost, another fight it cannot win. The cycle begins. The clouds come in, turn from white to gray, then fade to nothing. They fall down to the ground just to be reborn again. The cycle begins.
What was your initial response when you read through the synopsis of the Purgatorians and the cast of characters involved?
As I read through the synopsis, quite honestly, my first thought was, wow. Purely from how many characters there were, let alone how inclusive and diverse those characters were. I've auditioned previously for projects with larger casts, but I've only once before been involved in a project where there are over 30 cast members. I feel somewhat guilty in admitting that I very often skim or just don't read project bios, but when I saw just how much detail had been put into this one, knowing as a project creator myself just how tedious the process of creating a casting call is, let alone one of this size, I read through everything and was just immediately sold on everything. The whole thing just appealed to me in so many different ways, especially in considering its involvement of things that are often prevalent in my own work, such as abuse, murder, homophobia, and other generally depressing yet increasingly relevant occurrences of our current society that I constantly feel need to be addressed through any form of media, and The Purgatorians does just that, and in an entirely fictitious and engaging manner, and for that I truly take my hat off to Paul for his fantastic writing.
When I first read through the Purgatorian synopsis and cast listing, I thought it was a very ambitious project. It's very involved, there are many characters, and I thought that it could be very confusing for a writer to keep up with all of the characters and their interactions, so I admire the writers and project managers who handle projects like this and are able to handle a cast of characters this large and all the details of the story and keep everything consistent. I was very excited to get to audition because I thought that there were some very challenging characters that I could try out for. One was Alice Potts, and she's seen as the crazy old lady in town, but in reality she has some insights that are very important to the story and very important to the lives of the characters in the story. So I was challenged by the actual type of voice that she has, so I wanted to try out for that, and though she's kind of a side character, she's also very important to the movement of the story.
I rather enjoyed it as I first read through the synopsis. Stories that take place in another time or different world or another dimension has always been interesting to me, and now I have a chance to finally work on one, and it's super fun.
When I looked at the cast listing, it seemed like there were quite a lot of characters, and I automatically probably assumed that, a lot of these characters are probably going to disappear, come the first episode, the, first season. And luckily enough, these characters were actually very well-rounded, and he obviously knows where they're going, where we're going with them. And that was certainly one of my first thoughts, is that these characters are very well-rounded. He put a lot of detail into them. He very much gave them their own real personality, and I think that was a very strong attraction to this project.
So, my first thoughts on the Purgatorians, its cast listing, the plot synopsis, etc., was, wow, what the hell is this? It looks huge. I saw it, and I saw that there were like 50 characters or something, 30 to 50, I think. Somewhere in that number, I'm pretty close, I'm ballparking it. There were a lot of characters for audition, and usually I check those things out because I'm like, well, I can throw my name in there and chances are maybe I'll get picked for some little background role. And obviously this appealed to me because, you know, it's a paid project and I need money because I'm a starving artist. But other than that, it looked really neat because Paul, the writer, creator, etc., he described it as Wayward Pines meets Game of Thrones, and that really caught my eye because I love A Song of Ice and Fire. I'm like 4 books in, and I love Game of Thrones, the TV show. It's amazing, so I have a sort of guilty pleasure of watching these, you know, beloved characters die horribly. So I was drawn to that, and, you know, one thing led to another, and boom, here I am recording this interview for Johnny's part. So, obviously, something drew me in and it grabbed me. I can't get out now. Send help.
And I don't know why this sin keeps slipping through my fingers. And I don't know why the clouds, they always seem to linger. All I know is when it's your time to go, you go. Yeah, what I found, no coming back around. People come and people go, so we're told. I should have known. But when you're young, you think that some are invincible. The cycle begins.